Well, the question today is, does weight matter? Now, we've had a lot of media about this currently with the Tour de France, how heavy the bikes are, weight doesn't matter. And I even see a lot of people really put that forward and say, hey, look, weight doesn't matter. If you're carrying a few more kilos or the bike's carrying a few more kilos, you can lose the weight off your body, which is not always that easy, but that is true. But the question I want to put once we roll the intro is, does weight matter? Now, when we go back to the way back when I was a wee little lad, there was only steel racing bikes and they had higher spoke counts, and the bikes were heavier than they were today. And these bikes obviously only had 7-speed and so forth. So they were something quite different, and the group sets were probably a little bit lighter, but the bikes and the wheels were much, much heavier. And then came out aluminium frames, and they had some really radical designs, really thick down tubes like the Klein bikes. And I remember seeing them when they came out, and they were really interesting. It was like, hey, wow, look at these thick round down tubes, looked really cool. And then obviously composites came along, and we had composites made with carbon fiber, and then this transferred into wheels, and we had composite wheels, and the weights of bikes were really coming down. And it wasn't unrealistic to build a 5-something kilo bike. That was pretty reasonable, with tubulars, using a light frame, and so forth, with carbon composite materials. So what actually happened is the UC got a bit concerned about manufacturers making bikes too light, being a little bit too fragile, so they set a weight limit of 6.8 kilograms. We had 6.8 kilograms, but now bikes are starting to go the other way. They're finding it extremely difficult to meet the 6.8 kilo limit, and most of them are 7.2 or higher. And we even seen like some of these pro bikes are over 8 kilos. So they're quite significantly above the 6.8 kilos. And it's got to such a point now that the UCI, you very rarely see them now even weighing the bikes, because they know, hang on, it's disc brake bike, it's electric, it's all that. They're not going to get them under 6.8 kilos. So we're sort of back to the old days when we had the steel frames where, hey, look, don't worry, because the bikes are heavy anyway. We don't need to worry about measuring them to see if they're under the weight limit. So let's get back to the original question, does weight matter? Now, obviously, if you lose it off your body, then of course it makes a difference, because then you can dissipate heat better and you've got less weight on your body, you're kind of fitter. But you can go too far. And if you haven't watched another local Australian guy called Chris Miller, go check him out. He kind of went down this road and got a little bit too slim, changed his diet, and actually just wasn't motivated to train. And he didn't actually say it, but I would imagine that his power or his output for his weight had dropped off, even though he'd lost some weight. So there is a point where getting too light is going too far. But as far as the bike goes, we've got now these bikes generally being almost at least half a kilo above the limit, and quite often higher than a kilo over the weight limit set by the UCI. Now, people might go, yeah, weight doesn't matter, but I would argue differently, because if you get a backpack, or even if you get a jacket which has got big pockets, and you get a kilo of sugar or rice or something like that, or 2 500-gram bags of these, and you put them in your pockets, or you put a kilo in your backpack, and you carry that around for a day, because that's what these guys are doing riding their bikes. I mean, these sections are can be over 200 kilometers, and you walk around for that, you will notice that kilogram. Especially if you're walking upstairs or up an incline, you'll feel that extra weight. You'll feel it in your backpack. You'll feel the backpack pulling on your shoulders. You'll notice that weight difference. It's noticeable, and you can feel that your body's working harder. Now, if that's in the bike, that's what's going to happen. And as the incline starts to increase and you need to put out more watts, then that weight becomes more of a factor. And even if you walk up a hill, that same hill, and you work without the kilo and you add the kilo, you can feel it just walking. And when you're going faster on the bike, because the speed is much faster and you're actually moving more weight, then the effect of slowing you down becomes more significant, and that weight does matter. So in conclusion, we've had all of these composite products that are carbon fiber. We've got carbon fiber frames, everything's carbon fiber. Now you can get carbon fiber handlebars, the whole lot. And this whole technology was brought into the bike industry to get the weight down. But now the weight's going up, and it kind of, to me, is counterintuitive, because they want you to still buy carbon frames. They still want you to buy carbon wheels, which, by the way, they changed the whole design to disc brakes to alleviate the problem of carbon clinches because of the pressure and the overheating of the tracks and the failing of the rims. And now we've got heavier bikes. So we've got a carbon rim, which is, it's not a rim brake, it's a disc brake, and we fixed the problem with the carbon clincher problem, but now we've got a heavier bike, and these bikes are typically around about a kilo heavier, at least 500 grams to a kilo or more heavier. And this is the top bike. The top bikes we're paying $20,000 AUD for are actually a kilo heavier than they were, say, 5 years ago, because now we've put all of this electric stuff on, we put all these disc brakes on, and unfortunately that brings weight to the bike. And now, as I've shown in other videos, the frame manufacturers are trying to develop new techniques to be able to make the frames lighter, because they know the disc brake bike is heavier. And the only place you can save that is from the frame, because the group sets are getting more cogs, they're getting heavier. The disc system, the hydraulic system, is heavier. So you got more spokes on the bike. The wheels may be really minimally more heavier, but there is more weight in the bike. So the frame is the place where they can get rid of it. And the manufacturers are using this new EPS technology, expanded polystyrene foam, that they're using to try and make the bikes the compression better, so they can use less material in the frames to get the weight down. Well, anyway, guys, what do you think about this weight doesn't matter statement we're hearing all around the internet? Weight doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your bike's, 8.1 or 7.8 kilos, because weight doesn't matter anymore, even though they're still building these bikes out of carbon composites and the wheels out of carbon composites to keep the bike light. Imagine if you went to an aluminium frame or aluminium wheels. How heavy is the bike going to be? Well, anyway, guys, leave your comments down below. What's your take on this? Do you really think this is counterintuitive? We went for a phase of using composites to get the weight down, and now we're adding more weight to the system because they're trying to solve other issues like carbon clinches and the failing criteria because there's so much pressure on the rim, and you also have the carbon softening from overheating of the blade tracks. So they fixed that but created another type of problem. Well, anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I will see you next vid.